Welcome to my presentation of Beyond the Sun, Understanding Diverse Reactions to the Total Solar Eclipse. What we will be covering today are my credentials, what an eclipse is so you can identify and explain everything, maps of where to view and what traffic conditions will be like, and special considerations for members of the special needs population, physical and emotional aid for their problems. First of all, I am Stacy Welborne. I am currently 20 years old and have cerebral palsy, epilepsy, and sensory processing disorder. But I did not let that hold me back at all. I have a lifelong interest in astronomy from my mom waking me up late at night to check out cool astronomy stuff. I am a NASA Solar System ambassador now thanks to her inspiring me, and the total solar eclipse coming up on April 8th will be the third one I've managed to see. I am also the 2024 Indiana Miss Amazing Junior Miss Queen. Miss Amazing is for girls and women with disabilities to teach them poise, confidence, communication skills, interview skills, and how to impact their community. My platform is STEM education and opportunities for girls and women with disabilities. So, you might be wondering what exactly happens when there's a solar eclipse. Basically, an eclipse is a really big shadow. What causes the shadow is when the moon, represented by this pink golf ball, covers the sun, represented by this little basketball thingy. Imagine that you watching are the F's. So here's the sun, here's the moon, here it comes, totality, here it goes, and gone. A lunar eclipse, well, I can't really do a quick example of that because that's when the sun, when the Earth is the one between the moon and the sun. For a solar eclipse to happen, the moon must be near one of its nodes where the moon's tilted orbital plane and the Earth's straight orbital plane intersect and in the new moon phase. You might assume that is more common, but honestly, sometimes the moon is slightly off of its lineup. But of course, sometimes the moon lines up precisely with the Earth and the Sun. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about anything right now. There are 3 types of solar eclipses, with the sun and the moon stand-ins. A partial solar eclipse is when the moon only partially covers the sun. Do not look directly at this without proper eye protection because you might lose your eyesight. An annular is when the moon is too far away from the Earth to fully cover the sun. Don't look at this type of eclipse either. And a total solar eclipse is when the moon fully covers all of the sun. You can look directly at this eclipse, but only during totality, because that's the only time the brightness of the sun is blocked. Turn away right before totality ends, because that's the moment the sun is at its brightest. Here is another comparison of the different types my hands were not all that steady. Here is the partial solar eclipse, the annual solar eclipse, and the total solar eclipse. As you can see, the total is when all of the sun is covered. A total solar eclipse happens where the moon is at parity, which is when its closest point, and an annual eclipse is when it's at apogee, which is its furthest point. As you can see, there are different effects with the total and annual eclipse. The sun and moon execute a very elaborate dance every time there's a solar eclipse. First contact is the start of the eclipse when the moon first touches the edge of the sun. Then there are the partial phases as the landscape slowly dims with more and more of the sun being covered up by the moon. Second contact is when the total eclipse begins. The last bit of the sun fades away at the diamond ring, which is the cue to remove your eclipse glasses. Then third contact when the second diamond ring is about to occur. Look away and put your eclipse glasses back on. Then partial phases as the sky slowly grows brighter and brighter. And fourth contact is when the eclipse slowly comes to an end. So what does an eclipse look like? Obviously, these two brown circles are not part of the eclipse, but this shows how big the inner shadow where totality is and the outer shadow where only partial eclipses can be seen. Now I'm gonna show off the cool features of a total eclipse. First comes the baby speeds where the moon, as represented by this golf ball, because it's kind of like the moon, mountains and valleys slowly cover up the edges of the sun, and tiny bits of light peek around the approximately 10 seconds or so before totality. There is a dazzling burst of light close to one edge of the moon, which is known as the diamond ring effect. That is the signal for at start of totality to take off your eclipse glasses, and at the end of totality, look away and quickly put your eclipse glasses back on. During the total phase of a solar eclipse, you can see the corona, which is the outermost part of the sun's atmosphere that is typically hidden because of how bright the rest of the sun is. And now we get to honestly my favorite part of eclipses due to how precise and immense God is when He created everything. He designed the solar system so the moon is just far enough away from the Earth to make eclipses possible. Truly, as it's written here, the heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of His hands. Why do I chase eclipses? Because they are awe-inspiring chances for me to worship God and thank Him for loving tiny little me. The eclipse is on April 8th, 2024. What are you planning on doing on that day? It is extremely important for you to be anywhere within this path as it is the path of totality. You could literally be across the street from where totality is and miss the effect, and you will be so disappointed. If you live in Indiana, if you live somewhere in Illinois or Indiana, you need to be within this long band in order to fully experience the beautiful solar eclipse. Here is a more detailed version of the previous map that lists all of the various cities that are within totality. These are not all of them, but they are the major ones. The closer you are to the center line, the longer totality will be in your area. Try not to stay anywhere up here or down here because you will miss the full power of the eclipse. Here is a list of potential traffic patterns. Texas, being the largest state affected in totality, is expected to have the most, as you can see with the green, and Indiana is expected to have the second highest amount of people visiting during the eclipse. Here you can see the various major highway routes people might be taking to reach totality in Indiana. As you can see, they come from all the way over here, all the way down here, and all the way here up. Check out the number of people that are expected. 145,000 is the low estimate. The high estimate is nearly 500,000. And we have almost 4 million people already living within totality. That is a lot. This is a list of recommended steps before labeling and on the day of labeling. Decide now, if you haven't already, where you will be within the line of totality. Stock up on everything you need due to either shortages or just traffic. Expect delayed deliveries. Reschedule your appointments due to the possibility of being out of town during the eclipse. Have cash on hand in case the internet goes down. Get there early and make sure you're ready to stay for a long time. Make sure you have your Eclipse glasses. I will include resources on how to check that your Eclipse glasses are safe down in the description. Plan to stay later after the eclipse, maybe overnight if possible. I remember going somewhere in Tennessee. I don't remember exactly where. Well, it was a 2-hour drive from our hotel. Took nearly 5 hours. Take all your supplies with you, because if you forgot something, there will either be shortages or massive rush to the store. Get a full tank of gas because you might have to take back roads either to or from your viewing spot, and maybe an extra gas can to avoid all of the crowd. So, welcome to the most important section of this presentation. What does it feel like to experience an eclipse, and what about people who have disabilities? How does eclipses affect them? The information I give will also be relevant for helping parents who have small children who may not be able to fully understand what is going on. Most importantly, this is the most important thing, make sure you have safe Eclipse glasses. I will include a video at the end of this presentation that has information on checking for safe Eclipse glasses, because if you do not have safe Eclipse glasses, permanent eye damage is likely to occur. However, if you cannot, if you have a hard time keeping your balance or struggle with keeping anything on your face, then then it's safe to use a pinhole projector where you will be looking down at the sun's shadow rather than looking straight up at the sun. Experiencing totality can be a very emotional experience. Over the next several slides, I will be going over the acronym SPACE developed by Eclipse reaction expert. Yes, that is an actual thing. Kate Russell with common reactions, and these reactions may be amplified in the special needs population. SPACE is the acronym. It goes sense of wrongness, primal fear, awe, connectedness, euphoria, and desire to repeat. Even the most experienced Eclipse chasers feel these emotions. So service providers may wish to discuss these prior to the Eclipse, so whatever clients they have will be aware of what will happen. Those with intellectual and emotional challenges may exhibit signs of distress or extreme behavior. Space starts off with sense of wrongness. What is going on? This is not supposed to be happening. There's lighting change, which is initially normal right up until totality hits, and sound changes because the birds go back to their nest and the crickets start chirping. Totality feels very eerie and surreal. Next up is Peewitt's primal response, unexpected, intense fear, a strong physical sensation in the chest that really takes one's breath away. Some people feel chills, and you'll wind up with a strong desire to hide and a great desire to zoom out, kind of like fighting to see which one is stronger. If you have clients that either attack people when they're afraid or try to run away, please remember to keep them calm. Explain, no, this is not going to hurt you. This is fine. We talked about this before, and so on. And the A is for awe, which is a result of the primary fear. There's a feeling of personal insignificance when watching these enormous bodies of space around. It's different than like on Earth, where you view the Grand Canyon for the first time or meet your famous celebrity. That is limited to just what you can see and what you can hear. Totality is much more immersive with all your senses, and amidst the eclipse is changing like temperature. The moment totality hits, temperature just drops like that. It's moving as you watch the moon's shadow slowly cover the sun, and dynamic as well. C is for connectedness within this acronym. I am very small and insignificant, but I am connected to something very huge. Some people describe tears of happiness, sadness, or even fear, and some people hug those around them. E is for the euphoria that kicks in a few seconds after totality begins. It's a total rush of emotions, like getting hit with a huge dopamine release. There's cheering, people laugh, there's a bunch of happy squeaking, and D, which is desire to repeat. This is how Eclipse teachers are born. Like me, the rush from the euphoria is so intense they will do just about anything to repeat the experience, like flying down to San Antonio the day before, spending the night in the hotel room, going up to the top of the airport parking garage, watching it, and then going home and collapsing for a few days. That was what I did back in October of 2023, but thankfully you might not have to deal with this because only a very small percentage of viewers convert to actual Eclipse cases. Alright, now I'm gonna talk about my experience in August 2017. The space I felt was such a fondness. It was weird but cool, but weird but cool, but weird but cool. From fear, I was confused and disoriented, even though I knew well in advance what was happening. I felt speechless. Honestly, I'm still speechless. I can't exactly just figure out how to fully explain the eclipse. I felt so much reverence for God and His creation, and with connectedness, I felt a deep sense of connectedness to God and the world. Euphoria, we were in a large group of about 300 people, so after about 5 seconds, the absolute silence was the moon. Hang on, I need to get to this. Clicked into place in front of the sun. There's like 5 seconds of absolute silence, and then the whole group erupted into cheers. The cheering lasted for all 2 minutes, and I was pretty much uncontrollably laughing from excitement and desire to repeat. I have to go to as many eclipses here in America as I can, but afterwards I felt immediately exhausted and heat sick due to all the excitement of a long day outside in August in the middle of Tennessee, so I desperately wanted to fall asleep in a dark room. Here are some pictures of the eclipse on that day. Here you can see what a pinhole projector looks like. It's made from actually leaves on nearby trees shining down on a station. This is me, this is my dad, this is my sister. Here are some other people in the background. Look how dark it is, despite it being in the middle of a cloudless day. Anyway, in regards to after the eclipse, keep an eye on your clients' residual emotions and behaviors as you help them calm back down after all the excitement, and be aware of traffic considerations. A 2-hour trip on the way down to our viewing location turned into a 5-hour trip on the way back up, which is why I earlier recommended staying overnight. But if you cannot, for any reason, as you are familiar with back roads, these might be faster than interstates or major state highways because GPSs do not typically involve back roads. Okay, and here are some resource videos. Sarah Owen, he has a cool 3D animation comparing solar eclipses and lunar eclipses, and Smarter Every Day emphasize why it's important to go to the Eclipse and gives activities you can do while waiting in the puzzle phases. Overly sarcastic production and space to something cool is basically one of the two producers guessing about how cool the Eclipse was and all the science behind it. Reflected. This is the resource I mentioned previously about how to spot any fake eclipse glasses. And now for some cool eclipse craft you can be doing. Here's how to make the pinhole camera I mentioned earlier on in the video. Reenact the solar eclipse by using coffee filters in order to help explain it. And since some constellations will be visible during totality, here's how you can project constellation cards. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section for me to answer them. Also, if you need safe Eclipse glasses, let me know and I will perhaps mail them to you. No guarantee they will get to you on time though. And if you would like a guest speaker at any event, please let me know. Please like this video, comment what your favorite part was, and share it with your friends. Also, check out my Facebook page at Stacy's Astro Club. I am going to the 2024 Miss Amazing Nationals in Chicago in July, as I mentioned earlier in the video. There, I will talk with the judges about how I have impacted my world and the world of women with disabilities. So your likes, comments, and shares will help me show the judges what impact I have had. Okay, and here's my Excited page. All of these links along with the links about the other videos and crafts will be listed down in the description in case you need to access those. See you later. Bye. Happy Eclipse tasting.